What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. Where are all of these well-off singles? With all of these interviews and people looking for a high-value person, and this idea that they're there's a small number, they're the minority population, but there's still so many of them that you can pick and choose who you getting. I don't get it. Like, if that's the case, right? How many well-off singles have you met in your lifetime? I'm 41, so you know that would probably be. This is probably a better question for women, but how many? For every, because if you're saying you meeting dusties, you meeting working guys, and you meeting ballers, right? So how many of these people were well off? And I say it was the minority population. So the interesting thing, did you treat the well-off guy better than you would the working class guy or the dusty guy, or did you treat them all the same? The tactics that you would use to keep a dusty guy or working class guy or baller, would that be the same exact tactics? I'm like, because I would assume you don't come across the well-off guy very often, because it's not just that they're well off. It's a scheduling thing. Like, they're not gonna be, where everybody else is for the most part. And what I mean by that is, when you're in a dating market, right? When you're dating, you're not just gonna, well-off people ain't about to just pop onto your Tinder, or your Bumble, if you go out and you go out on a nightlife, you're not just finna see well-off people just pop in every other night. That's not about to happen. And what city are you in? Like, because that makes it worse. Like, if you're in L.A., if you're in New York, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, you have a higher propensity to run into quote unquote well-off people, right? But if you're not, then what are you talking about? Like, where are you running into all of these? Because everybody's, I'm doing this, I'm making this amount of money, I'm looking for somebody like this. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're in one of those major metropolitan cities and you're well off and you're like the only, and you don't know and you don't know somebody as well off as you in your same field, that has people in their circle that are well off in something else, then I would say you're a bit of a hermit. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that means you're not even in the circle of well off people. So you're just a one off. You're just an anomaly. Like, because you're not in the room with the rest of the people who are well off, which means they're not there. They're not as accessible and prevalent as people like to try to make it seem. I'm like, come on, like, we should know this by now. This idea that, I want somebody who's up here. And I was like, okay, how many times do you meet somebody who's up here? You know what I'm saying? All the time. Well, if you meet people up here all the time and they haven't talked to you not once, or maybe they slept with you a few times, maybe, I don't know. But y'all not really taking this into a practical application and say, listen, man, if it's 365 days in a year, 52, weeks in a year. So I met somebody well off maybe 4 times, last year, 5 times in a year's time. And how did that, go those 4 or 5 times? Did something come of that, or just a passing thing? What? Now, how many people have you met that would say working class, that were in your same, that were on your same level or whatever, right? How many people did you meet like that? and 52 weeks in a year. You probably say you met somebody like that every week because y'all gravitate in the same areas. So this need to find somebody who's more well off is this search for a circle that you're not orbiting around in, or your friends aren't orbiting around in. It's just a waste of time, a lesson in procrastination. Because by the time you figure out, man, I don't know where these people are. I don't run into these people like that. It's too late. Common sense will tell you that. And if you're younger and you haven't figured it out, and as you get older and you haven't figured it out, it's like, and then what winds up happening is some of the people that you meet when you're younger that are working class wind up being well off 5, 10 years later, and then it's like, and you don't know that they're well off because they're not advertising it, and they've already probably introduced themselves a time or two, and you're like, you're not on my level, and it's like, okay, I'm not on your level, fine, no problem, I'll go somewhere else. So because I've noticed this, like even with people that I know, it's more probable for a working class person to to become the well off, in that process than it is for you to meet a well off person. And I've seen it so many times where a person will look at another individual like, you're not on my level, and then years later go, I mean, why we never went out? What's up with that? You said I wasn't on your level years ago. What are you talking about? Well, but now you killing it, and I just think, we're a good fit. And it's like, no, 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 no. But that's just my thought on that. Like, share, subscribe, or die. Try and catch you on the next one. Peace.